What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of What's on Kickstarter. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the great, good, and not so good decks recently released on Kickstarter, as well as some other fun campaigns that have recently caught our eye on Kickstarter. Steve, I gotta say, man, this is actually another small week, which is kind of nice from the production side of things, but it's always weird to see how much you can have these huge swings in the amount of new decks coming out every week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a pattern at all. You know, last year, it seemed like towards the middle of the year, we saw a swing in the up direction, and this year, it's not that way. So yeah. It's interesting.
Dude, I'm definitely curious to see what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, see if we continue to see these low amounts until we get closer to the end of the year. I feel like, you know, August, September is maybe the last big push for the holidays, so we do see a lot of decks come out around then, but I definitely don't remember July being so mellow.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Well, why don't we take a look at this week's first great deck, man?
Dude, show us what's on Kickstarter.
Right, coming in this week as the first great deck, we have the Salmon Fish playing cards. I gotta say, not what I was expecting for a deck of cards here. You walk into it, and when I first saw this pop up under the playing card thing, I was like, oh, something must be wrong with the search. It looks like a like a takeout box for like food.
It totally does.
I thought it was gonna be like a Kickstarter for like a new healthy alternative to like HelloFresh that was fish related.
A meal plan.
Yeah. So kudos on that one. The picture definitely caught my eye when I saw it in the playing cards. Definitely got a kick out of it. Fun little story to it. The irony of it is, as much as I love the idea of this deck, I don't like salmon. For some reason, it's one of the only fish I won't eat. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of it.
Interesting.
I think it's because there's always like the little bones in it, you know?
Not always, but I understand.
I feel like they're always in there. But with that in mind, I really do like this as a deck of cards. I think they put together a really fun campaign. They have a great story here. They dive right into the features section, talking about it being printed by Taiwan Playing Card Company, fulfilled by Gambler's Warehouse. They really hit those points really quick, which is nice. You don't have to dig too deep to figure out where this deck is coming from. One of the other really cool things about this is they've actually come up with some really creative ways to package this deck. So you can see the kind of like almost sardine can-esque top and these kind of like fun fish-based half brick boxes. Absolutely loving this deck. Some really cool add-ons to it. You have this fish-shaped acrylic deck stand. You have cards that actually have the foil stamping right on the back. It's a really interesting back design there. It kind of looks like a partially filleted salmon, which is a interesting choice. The gold foil on it, though, really is going to look great. The one thing I would say, I probably would have put the display stand and the half brick boxes after getting through a lot of the bare bones stuff like the back design and the cards themselves. From that point of view, it kind of makes a little more sense flow-wise. Obviously, the half brick boxes are a very eye-catching point, so having them up top isn't a bad idea. But my first question when coming to this is, what's the back design look like? You know, this could be hit or miss. It could have been very casino style with two gummy fish-esque shapes on the back. And I think they went a completely different direction. I think that's something you want to show from the jump. The other thing that stands out to me on this one, too, is the tuck box needs to come up further, like first images of that. The quartz are actually really interesting as well because they have a very traditional style to them. But it looks like very fish-colored, you know, choices for the colorway.
Yeah, those court cards actually remind me of Elephant, like really colorful court cards, you know, that are just vibrant.
Yeah.
Elephant does that a lot.
I could definitely see that. And then you get the fun little pips here. And then, so there's actually two decks on this as well. You have the barbecue deck and the fresh deck. So they have a little bit of tweaks to both of them. Really well done, really put together. Funny story that runs throughout. Really a lot of good information there. Very nice pictures. This campaign actually really touches on a lot of the points that you're going to be asking about, which I think is great. One thing
it's fun, and they have a gilded set.
The one thing that does stand out to me on the gilded set is that fresh one almost shows a little bit of a salmon color there.
Yeah.
Gilding colors are actually a lot harder to get to match up than most people think, and there's actually a limited range of gildings that most companies will offer depending on where you're getting your deck gilded. So it very well could be that the fresh one, which has this salmon-esque colored gilding, ends up more of like a traditional orange than salmon
or
pink even, though that pink is like the pink that you see in most gilding places is like a hot pink. So hopefully they go with orange. I think it might fit a little better, but definitely something to consider on this is identifying what colors you're going to be using for gilding, and I would say including it in here, because even the red, it's probably going to end up being a maroon, which is feasible. That's a little easier. That orange or pink is going to be tough there.
Yeah, orange you can do, but which you can hit that orange, like salmon orange color.
Yeah, it's just regular orange.
Yeah, for sure.
Metallic dice, very cool add-ons, collector's coins, interesting to see. The one thing that did stand out to me on this one too is the risks and challenges seems a little bit small, especially considering it's a first-time campaign, and there's a lot of risky potential in this, whether it be the coins, the acrylic fish-style deck stand, the half brick box. That's a lot of different manufacturers and a lot of moving parts in this. As a first-time creator, I would be doing a very expansive risks and challenges section on this. If nothing else, laying out that you've found all your manufacturers, you have production ready to go, you're just waiting on funding, all of these key points, and talking about the whole process, because you want to ensure that people are going to feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, what's it coming at?
We are looking at $22 for a foil back deck. Really is not bad at all. Again, the foil's more minimal there with the gold in it only, but still, foil on a card back for 22 bucks. If this is your style, definitely a good deal.
Yeah, good luck.
And while we're at it, if you're enjoying the episode so far, make sure to like and subscribe.
And hit the bell.
And for this week's first good deck, we have the Deviants Deck, a custom hand-drawn poker deck. So off the bat, one of the things that jumps out to me here is the fact that the subtitle itself exactly repeats the words of the end of the main title. Probably a little bit of excess verbiage in that subtitle that can be pulled out and make it a little bit smaller. But with that in mind, this campaign is actually really well put together. They touch on good story from the jump. They show off the artwork really well. They talk about the manufacturing and fulfillment. So you're looking at MPC to print, and it looks like it's going to be self-fulfilled by the artist. So great. You see those right out the gate. There isn't a feature section, but one thing that I do think with a feature section is as long as you have your important information towards the top, it isn't always necessary. One reason I really love a feature section is because I think a bullet pointed list actually jumps off the screen a little bit more, so it makes it stand out a little bit more for people quickly scrolling through. With that in mind, printer and fulfillment both hit here.
Yep. I like seeing like a lot of pictures too, which is good.
Yeah, they've really done a good job with it. They touch on some stretch goals here. Silver gilt edges, interesting kind of usage of the word gilt versus gilded, which seems to be the industry standard in playing cards. Both are in fact correct, but based on where you come from with that, gilt is kind of a little bit of a different take with it. The way I think of gilt, G-I-L-T, is more so with like book edges than playing cards, but it's both the same meaning there. But that's kind of a standout to me, that this maybe is someone who's not necessarily familiar with the playing card industry.
Yeah, or coming from maybe Europe or something. I think that's what they use over there.
Could be, very well could be. Yeah. Really nice stretch goals there. Keeping them pretty simplistic. The original goal here is $1,300. So, you know, every once in a while what we see is a list of stretch goals that for a funding goal of $5,000, people have got stretch goals figured out until $250,000. And while that's not a bad thing necessarily, it always kind of seems a little overzealous sometimes. And what I would say in those situations, which thankfully this one didn't do, is you can always stagger the release of your stretch goals. Release more stretch goals as you get closer to completing all of your stretch goals versus feeling the need to have all of them laid out from the jump. In this situation, they did a really good job talking about that. They'll do the silver gilt edges at $2,500, so a little bit under double the goal. And then the rigid card box. Stretch goal, every deck will be shipped out in a custom rigid card box instead of a standard tuck box. So to me, that means this will probably be coming in a white tuck box. So they're not doing a custom printed tuck through MPC, just a white tuck box and the cards. For some people, that probably will turn them off from it because we have a lot of tuckists out there. But I do like that they tie right into the About Me section. And the risks and challenges, the one thing I would say is, as a first-time creator, it definitely should be a little more robust. Talk about potential hiccups from the artwork point of view, production point of view. The fact is we are still in a global pandemic, so touching on the fact that there could be shipping delays always helps. And if you are shipping to an international community, touching on customs fees and importation fees in the risks and challenges, and even potentially a shipping section, is always crucial, because then you at least let people know that there may be additional fees that they are going to have to take care of when the deck is shipped.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be over in the tier section, because it's kind of really wordy with all that in there.
Yes, it does get very wordy. The one thing that does stand out to us here, and honestly, from a price point of view, this is extremely overpriced for what it is for a custom deck of cards with a standard white tuck box. $35 is on the high end. Granted, with MPC, sometimes it's tough to do the pricing there because they do it based on print runs. So if this is a creator who's only expecting to sell 20 decks, 20 decks is going to cost a lot more per deck than 100 decks or 1,000 decks. With that in mind, be ambitious on it. Have a reasonable price point so that you can draw in more people. And I would also expect at a $25 per deck price point to have a custom tuck box, not a white standard tuck box, because the price point there isn't that much more with MPC for the custom tuck box. The other thing that stands out to me is a kind of big issue on this one, and what makes this a good campaign, not a great campaign, is the lack of tiers and options. You actually have two of the same tier, except one is signed and one is not. In reality, you want to have as much variability as possible to sell as many decks as possible, so having a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 6, and a 12 tier for decks is always a better option. You may not sell a ton of bricks, especially on a custom, non-really playable deck of cards, but that's fine. Throw the option out there. Someone may come along and say, I want 12 of these decks. You're now limiting the ease of them buying 12 decks, which is definitely not something you want to do. The other thing to include in that is, without having a multi-deck tier, you actually don't include any information on add-ons about how to add more decks, which means that you're basically telling people you can only get one deck. You never want to limit your potential of sales to just one deck, because very often people will buy 2 decks. With that said as well, I do think they probably could have found a better way to include the signed limited edition as an add-on for the standard deck instead of its own separate tier. You ultimately end up taking away from, I mean, yeah, look at that. Most people are backing for the signed one versus the standard one. So if that's where the draw is, what you want to do is have the standard so everyone's buying a standard deck, and then have the add-on for the signed so it's managed in a little bit of a cleaner way. With this right now, and looking at the logistics of Kickstarter, you now have to send out 2 surveys that are the exact same thing. If the price point's exactly the same, you actually could have even done this as a survey question. You could have had a, while I wouldn't recommend you have one tier, looking at how this is built out now, you could have had one tier, and then in the survey said, do you want me to sign the deck, yes or no, and they could indicate there. That actually saves a lot of administrative things on the back end of this as well. Now, one thing I would really push on this one, though, is consider multiple tiers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12. Really make sure that you have as much possibility for people to back as many decks as they want, and make sure that you offer extra decks as an add-on, because that will help you expand the amount of decks you're going to print, bringing that price point down and making the price of the deck overall more affordable.
Yeah, good luck.
No doubt. It's always exciting to see first-time creators really coming and having a very well put-together campaign. You know, no one expects a first-time campaign to be perfect, so having some issues with the tiers, not unexpected, but this is really on the cusp of being a great campaign for a first-time creator, so really good luck on that one.
Definitely. I like the back design, too. Colorful.
It's fun, man. I definitely dig it, so good luck. Hopefully this funds, and if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us as well, or leave a comment down below. We're always down to help with new creators, so... And for this week's First Needs Help campaign, we have the cards from the Pattern Garden from Ian Cumpstey. So I actually have to say, I'm a big fan of Ian Cumpstey's work. I've purchased a couple of his decks in the past. I really do enjoy his campaigns. So it kind of stings me a little bit to have to call this one a need help, but there's a couple things that really stood out to me from a structural point of view that I just think make this a hard to swallow campaign, and ultimately may kind of take away from the potential to expand beyond the normal, you know, pool of backers. We can already see from this relatively average goal, not too bad, 61.94, really feasible. 55 backers, a lot less than you'd expect, especially for such a artistic deck for a creator who has so many successful decks behind him. Part of the reason may be just because of the actual playability of the deck, and I think that's a fair concern for many people, but I don't think that in any way would detract from people who are buying this just from the artwork point of view. A couple of the things that really do stand out to me on this one, though, just looking at the campaign here, we notice that there is a good story thrown together. It talks about the Mamluk Empire and talking about building this card deck out to use that style. So it explains the non-standard visible kind of fronts on this. Talks about the pips here, and we can see these are the swords. The way I would expect to count these is this is a 1. These are 1, 2, 3, 6 maybe, and then this is an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 8. So immediately you can tell this is not an easily playable deck, but with that in mind, that's okay. There's so many decks we see that are not easily playable decks. I don't think that will detract too much from backing, because there is a very healthy collectors community who would back a deck like this. I think some of the stuff that really stands out on this one as well, that kind of might be where some people are hesitant, is there's no real mention of printing or fulfillment. I know historically Ian has fulfilled these decks himself. I still actually don't know where he gets his decks printed, but not mentioning it in there could be a reason that a new backer may opt not to back this, even if they like the artwork. I would be curious. I know Ian does try and work a lot of times with local printers, but with that in mind, let people know who the printer is, not only so that they feel more comfortable knowing you have a printer lined up, but I also think it's a great opportunity to share new printers or small printers and get more visibility for them across the board. You know, in playing cards, it's very difficult. We all know USPCC, Cardamundi, TWPCC, Legends playing cards. These are all big names that most people know, but there are so many small printers who don't get a lot of visibility because they're regional. And if you're someone in the UK, as Ian is, printing a deck of cards, there's a lot of other people in the UK who are thinking about printing a deck of cards as well, who might want to use a printer that they've known because they have these decks in hand, but they just don't know the name. So actually, it's a great way to help promote companies that help you in these projects.
Yeah. What's the price look like?
So taking a look at the price point on this one, we're looking at $47 a deck. So yeah, that definitely is one of the reasons this hits a needs help here, and it may very well be the reason that the funding is a little less enthusiastic than I would have expected for a Ian campaign. With that in mind, depending on where you're printing and how many print run you're looking at, that could impact the price per deck. But even with some of the more historical decks I've had from Ian, the price point has been a little more on par. So I'd really be curious to see why this is a $47 deck versus something like the Commoners or the Viceroys, which were all a little bit more in line with industry standard on cost.
It actually says they're actually a different size too, so they're not poker size, which is
so yeah. And
I wonder if that has anything
that could
to do
be
with
impacting, yeah, because it could be harder to cut or print, but that still seems like a very large price differential just for that. Yeah, and in those situations, like, I mean, and again, I'm not the creator behind this, and so with that in mind, like, there could be a vision as to why he didn't want to compromise and use a poker deck, even if it was less expensive. But with that in mind, that's almost a 2-deck price for 1 deck, so you're really kind of limiting it to people who absolutely love the artwork.
Yeah, I totally agree. And he has a pretty good following. You know, most of his campaigns hit over 200 backers, so seeing this come in at 55 tells me, you know, there's questions about it.
I just have a feeling that the price point, the lack of visibility into the printer, and potentially the playability of it are really some of the hindering factors on this one, and why it's not getting as much of an enthusiastic funding as possible. I mean, I think the price point probably stands out to me as the biggest one. The one thing I do want to point out, though, too, is Ian really does a very thorough risks and challenges section, and so much so that I would almost recommend a new creator check out some of his risks and challenges, because he touches on a lot of the things that could potentially go wrong, talks about how they're going to be handled. He doesn't gloss over things like, oh, there's a pandemic in the world, so shipping could be delayed. He goes into even more detail on that, saying, you know, while there is a pandemic going on, we know there could be shipping delays. This is who I'm going to use for my post. We're going to do our best to have tracking on these things, blah, 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 whatever. There's a lot of detail there that really helps inspire confidence in the campaign itself. Just think that price point, dude's making it a little bit of a tough one, which is a bummer to see, because I really do dig the artwork on this. It kind of reminds me of a stained glass window style artwork, which I really love.
Oh, it definitely is the vibe for sure. Good luck, Ian.
Good luck, Ian. We hope this one funds, but if not, dude, the artwork is beautiful. Definitely figure out where that price point went really high and maybe take it back to the drawing board. But if it does fund, good luck.
Yeah, I'd also switch that title too. I'd put like medieval Mamluk style playing cards, and then put cards from the pattern garden. It might get a little more search capability.
Yeah, that's very true. The SEO may help on that one as well. So,
yeah.
Good luck. And for another great campaign this week, we have the Arceus Muthos Playing Cards White Edition. So this is actually a recolor of a previous deck that came out in like kind of like a blackish gunmetal gray deck previously done. Really beautiful deck. Love the Greek style to it. Really nice price point as well for something with a foil tuck and really just intricate artwork. You're looking at $22 a deck, which isn't bad at all.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that white and gold.
Let's say that again.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that white and gold.
I see it, dude. Really like the deck. Really like the style to it. I love the fact that it's got the busts as the court cards there, and you have that jack in the bottom corner, that jack of spades, which is the Cerberus, which I absolutely love. The three-headed dog who guards hell.
Yeah.
But definitely a fun deck. Good luck on this one. And for a fun non-standard playing card deck this week, we have the standard playing card tarot, which is absolutely hilarious thinking about it's a non-standard deck with the standard playing card tarot. Playability on this deck is questionable, but it's a really cool tarot deck styled around the standard court cards. Absolutely love the look of it. Really clever style. I also thought it was interesting that they introduced or renamed the knights from a traditional tarot deck to cavaliers because of the idea that there are kings in a traditional deck.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, 80 cards, it's definitely not your traditional. I probably would have looked at it and been like, oh, this is really cool. Bought it and got the box and it'd be
Yeah, be like, why is this so thick? Dude, I love it. And honestly, coming in at $22 a deck for an 80 deck card deck, that's pretty competitive, which I think is really cool. And actually really competitive for a tarot deck as well. We see tarot decks that go
that 6 is so cool.
Dude, these decks are just really fun. Like, I'm really impressed with the way they brought this standard style to the tarot deck in such a successful way.
Yeah, I agree. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck on this one. So, Steve, what are you backing this week, man?
I think I'm going to lay low this week.
All right, man. Fair enough. You know what? Again, it's tough when it's such a small week. I actually have to say, I really dig the Salmon playing cards and the campaign itself. But like I said, I'm not a fan of Salmon, so for me, the deck isn't a win there. But if I were a fan of Salmon, that's probably one I'd go to back. I'm so torn on the Pattern Gardens deck because I really do love the art on it. But $47 shipped is more than I'd pay for most decks, especially if I'm not sure who's printing it. So, you know, while I really do think it is a beautiful deck, and for anyone who's a big supporter of Ian and his artwork, it's worthwhile, but that's a hard price point to swallow in my book.
Yeah, $47 is a lot of money.
And while we're at it, we'd always love to hear what everyone else plans on backing this week. So if you haven't already, leave a comment down below and let us know which decks you're planning on backing this week. And in addition, which decks you're really looking forward to getting that you've backed in previous weeks.
Yeah, dude, it's that time.
It is that time, my man. We have some really fun campaigns this week to check out. And I actually think, based on what we have, we're all over the spectrum, man. Whether you like board games, photography, travel, home gadgets, whatever, we're hitting a lot of fun campaigns this week.
Yeah, we are. I think this week is a fun one, for sure.
I cannot get enough of it. I'm excited to check them out. You ready to dive into them? So for this week's first fun campaign, we have the Assassin's Creed Valhalla Orlog dice game. Honestly, dude, this thing jumped out to me immediately. I'm an old school Assassin's Creed fan, so when it told me that there was a board game or dice game that they were building out based on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I was completely on board with this. Absolutely love the way they put together this campaign. Something we've talked about in the past, the usage of images to build out the campaign to help with formatting, because we all know that Kickstarter is tough on the formatting side. Dude, the one thing that stands out to me on this one that we don't always see with image-based ones, text is legible.
Dude, this is literally how you should build out your campaign if you're using images.
Yes.
Text is nice and big. The images are big. You can see what you're buying. This is a campaign to follow for sure.
And they use some interesting white space to kind of create some breakup between it. So it's not just one super long image. They use the white space to almost create natural pause points, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. Some spots the white space is a little too much, but other than that, it's really clean looking.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that too big white space is probably because of the way Kickstarter adds those extra line breaks from time to time. That was the biggest pain in the ass when trying to make a Kickstarter, was like getting away from the extra line breaks they throw in.
Yeah. Now, how much is something like this?
Look here, dude. You are looking at $39.
Not bad. Is it only the dice?
So
it
it
comes
looks
with
like
some stuff. Cards.
Let's see. 1 dice game, design cardboard box, 2 wooden dice bowls, 32 cardboard stones for health counters, 50 tokens.
Oh, cool.
Dude, so there's a ton of
Oh,
stuff.
it's a game.
Yeah, so this is a legit game, and there's a ton of stuff included with it, which I think is really cool. The other cool thing about it is some of these add-ons are just dope, man. So you have another set of dice that are more like thematically oriented. You have a game mat you could get. You have a replica horn, which is super pricey, but really cool if you're into the artwork style things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm really impressed with this, man, and I think this is something that if you're looking for something like out of the ordinary game night, it's definitely a way that you could bring something fun home for 2 people to play, it looks like, and just go to town. I'm always leery on 2-person games because it almost feels like you're playing them like with someone you live with. You're not having it for like a game night per se. But this looks like it could be something where maybe if you got multiple sets, you could expand it out. Or ultimately, even if all that you need are these little discs to roll dice in, you just make shifts, get your own, you know?
Yeah, I'll just use a cereal bowl.
Exactly. There you go. That'll work. But no, this is definitely a dope campaign. And the company that put this together, Pure Art, works with a lot of licensed brands around the video game and like cartoon animation kind of side of things. So they've done some amazing campaigns in the past. I think they've only done 2 Kickstarter campaigns, but they do a lot of like action figure-esque artwork and like busts and statues from like video game characters, which are really cool. So their work in general is just amazing. But I saw this and I was like, yeah, man, I'm on board with this.
That's cool, dude. And I have to think that you'd be proud of me because I know what Assassin's Creed is.
I am proud of you. It's a good game. If you didn't know, I'd be really disappointed.
Yeah, well.
And next up for another found campaign this week, we have the EcoFlow Delta Pro Portable Home Battery. So I will throw this right out there. This is my second home battery, but don't worry. I'm not starting any lighting trends. This is just something really cool. And dude, honestly, and anytime I see big numbers getting pulled in on a campaign, I'm always like, ooh, what's this all about? Dude, $3.7 million on this thing.
You know what this is all about? This is all about the vampires and the zombies coming to town, man. People getting scared. They need to have their battery backups.
I don't know, man. I'll be honest. If this thing could run a decent amount of backup, I would pick one of these up just for the small things that bother me when power goes out, like having to reset all your clocks.
Yeah.
That's like the worst thing because I literally woke up this morning and my power gone out and I was like, what time is it? And I look at my clock and it's blinking 4:28 at me. And I'm like, I know that's not the case because the sun's up, so...
How many clocks do you own?
You got to figure you have 1 on your oven, 1 on your microwave. I have 1 in my bedroom. 3 is more than I want to have to set.
I have literally 1. It's on my stove/oven. That's it. I don't even own a microwave, and I don't own like a clock in my room. I have my phone. That's it.
Dude, well, you know what? If I had this thing, I wouldn't have to worry so much about it. And it looks like it actually ties right into like some of these home generator hookups. It's portable, which is really cool. You can see the wheels on it. And all things considered, man, I was looking at this and I've been looking at like kind of this idea of home generators for a while. They're really kind of unique. And you look at this thing, it's got a solar charging capability as well as a connector for if you had like a EV car. So
yeah, that's convenient for sure.
Dude, absolutely a convenient thing. And I think in this day and age, it's really cool to see some forward thinking development in these things where it's not just like, oh, in 5 years, unless you have a standard plug in your house, you can't use it anymore. And also this solar panel actually being solar tracking. I've seen a couple things like this in the past, and it's actually really clever. It follows the sun throughout the day to maximize the amount of energy you get from it. I'm sure that's not cheap, and depending on where you live, it would probably be an eyesore to have it in your yard if you were using this for your home. The idea behind this is actually really, really clever, and if you're using it for camping like they suggest in some of these scenarios, having that auto tracking and giving you the capability of cooking with like an electric stovetop or something like that throughout the camping trip, awesome.
Dude, I mean, the amount of time it takes to set up that solar panel, I'd have like burgers and everything ready for you by now.
Probably.
I'm like, you go set up that solar panel, bro. I'll have your food done in 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's interesting, though. Like, they do show it as, like, a home unit here as well. I personally wouldn't want to have it as a home unit unless you had a backyard where no one would be able to see it. I'm still a bigger fan of, like, the roof-mounted panels because they're a little less visible, per se. But very interesting campaign for sure. And it always kills me how expensive these things are, but I get it. Like, a generator's not cheap either. $1,750. So I'm not familiar with all the generator pricing. That could actually be a really great deal. It could be a really high deal, but either way, a $1,700 purchase is always pricey in my book and something you got to think about. But I think this is actually really cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that think it's cool. So.
Dude, yeah. 1,100 people have backed this, so
Yeah.
definitely a lot of people think this is cool. So good luck to them on this one. I think it's a really innovative idea, and I'm really interested to see how well that tracking solar panel technology goes with this.
Dude, EcoFlow, man. Crushing it.
Absolutely crushing it. And for another fun campaign, we have Steve's first pick of the week, the Fjorden faster camera controls now on your iPhone.
Dude, I'm not a huge fan of phone photography. You know, obviously, being a photographer, I don't normally pick up my phone to take pictures. You know, I go on vacation and I don't even bring my phone. So, I mean, I don't even bring my camera. But this thing is really, really cool. It's kind of like mimics your camera grip on your camera body, and it has an app that attaches to it, so it allows you to control all the settings on the iPhone, which is absolutely amazing. It's super convenient. It's small. It's really compact. I really dig it. It's kind of looks like a point and shoot at that point, you know, and obviously you can get other lenses that you can add on.
It's definitely interesting, and I always love to see how they look for innovative ways to improve cell phone camera technology, because obviously you can't just rely on the camera. It becomes more about convenience and ease of use, and it's really cool to see a lot of these add-ons coming out.
Yeah. I mean, it's super sleek. It basically looks like a battery pack.
Yeah.
You know, like an extender or something. But, you know, I think coming in at, I think it's like about $150, which, you know, when you think about it, it sounds like a lot for just a grip. But obviously, I think, you know, what you're paying for is the capability of changing those settings on your iPhone camera.
It's the early bird, though. You're looking at close to $200 standard pricing.
Yeah.
Definitely worth
getting
it's
pricey. Bird.
Yeah, definitely worth getting the early bird for that one.
Yeah. But I mean, it allows you to not have to carry around a point and shoot camera.
Yeah.
You know?
It's definitely interesting. I like the idea behind it. Yeah, and the fact that it doesn't like add too much bulk to the phone itself, definitely a win.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man. For another fun campaign from Steve this week, we have the NIXOID NEXT Nixie Watch 2021. Dude, that is a mouthful. Too many N's.
Say that 5 times.
I don't know if I could say it twice slowly.
So good, dude. I picked this and I'm like, oh, Todd is gonna love it. It's a watch.
I love watches. I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised I didn't pick this one.
Dude, this watch just look. So I'm not a watch person. I am not gonna lie. I am not a watch person. But when I saw this campaign, I'm like, dude, I'm a watch person. I love this watch. It looks dope. It looks high tech. It makes me feel like I'm in the movie Timeless or something, or Terminator, or it's dope. They come in so many different colors.
It's a big watch.
Just looks like it's part of the future,
it's
man.
A big watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you'd see maybe like military grade, you know, maybe SWAT team wearing it or something like that. But it's got a lot of stuff in it, you know, the accelerometer, and it just looks dope. Yeah. It's control, you know, it's controlled by your movement too. So not every movement is gonna, you know, light up the display. It's, you know, controlled by this hand movement of just back and forth once, which is really cool. You know, I think it's definitely innovative and looks dope. Most watches, I'm just like, man, it's a watch.
It's definitely unique. And honestly, I think that's one thing that a lot of people are always looking for with a watch is a unique watch. You don't want the same watch everyone has. But the other thing to consider with this, and again, like I wouldn't be able to pull this watch off because the face on it looks huge. But
yeah, it does.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anywhere in here the actual size.
The diameter? Yeah, I didn't see that either. Yeah.
16.9 millimeters
but,
thick.
I mean,
that's a thick watch, but that's not unheard of either. Like there's so many thick watches now, so it's not surprising, but I'm a little surprised they don't have the millimeters in it.
I mean, like the size.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. 16.9. Yeah.
No, that's the thickness, though. Yeah, the diameter. Yeah, they don't have. Which, to me, that's a big thing in any watch campaign. Is you want to know how big it is, so that when you put it on your wrist, whether or not it fits you. You know, watches are something where, for a while, it was trendy to have a super big watch. For a long time, it was trendy to have smaller watches. But there is such a thing as having too big of a watch, depending on your wrist size. So.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and kind of gets too bulky. It's kind of annoying. But dude, I mean, it just looks rad.
Dude, and for $240, that's actually a pretty competitive price for a nice looking watch.
Yeah, and see that movement right there?
Yeah.
the movement that you need that basically lights it up.
The
Just that movement.
way that lights up is sick too.
Oh, dude, it's so cool.
Reminds me almost like Matrix or something like. Actually, you know what it reminds me of? The movie The Time Machine that they did a couple years back, where it was the H.G. Wells style, but it was a very like classical style time machine where you'd pull the knob and then the dials would go and everything. Very cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Justin Timberlake movie. You know, the,
oh yeah. You looked at your
Timeless,
watch and it told you how much time you had left to live.
Yeah, it's just like updated like that. It's just so cool.
Very cool. Now, this is a really fun watch. Honestly, something unique, something you won't see every day, especially because it talks about the fact that nixie tubes are not necessarily easy to find anymore. They're not in mass production anymore. Tubes are general, not a common thing. So really interesting to see.
Yeah. Kind of makes me think, you know, if something happens with it, how's it going to get fixed? But one thing about the campaign that was really fun was the trailer itself reminded me of the Fort Knock by Nick Soriano and Andrea.
I could definitely see that, man. It's interesting too because I can't tell, but it looks like the video is actually animated. I don't think this is like real, like live action.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Looks live action to me.
Dude, taking a look at some of the stuff in it, there's like little hints here and there that just don't seem real.
It looked real to me.
I can't tell. I really...
Just by the way they're acting.
Yeah.
The way the people are acting, they're like trying to act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can't tell, you know, to be very honest. One way or the other, it's a dope trailer, no doubt about that. But yeah, I can't... my eyes aren't that great from the animation point of view to be able to tell the difference, but this could be live action. It could be animation. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd like to see like maybe a trailer that showed a little bit more about the watch and how badass it is and how like in the future.
Yeah.
You know, where they're using it, maybe scoping someone out, or I don't know. It would have been a little more fun to see.
Dude, something
watch.
Something about the paper, something about their skin. The texture of the skin looks off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the lighting.
Yeah.
The lighting coming in from that right side just washes it.
Yeah, that could be it. So, either way, dope trailer. Definitely check it out. I gotta say, this is a very cool watch, though.
Yeah. I wish I had $250 to spend on it.
And the guarantee that the tubes would be replaceable. But either way, very cool watch. Very fun campaigns this week, though, man. I think there was a healthy mix of, you know, home gadgets, board games, watches, and camera accessories, which is always fun. But as always, we always love to hear what everyone out there watching is going to be backing this week. So make sure to leave a comment down below and let us know what you would be backing this week. There's always so many things that are cool on Kickstarter, whether they be playing cards or other kind of themes, or there are so many cool things on There's so many cool things on Kickstarter every week, whether they be playing cards or other niche board games and things like that. So we always love to hear what everyone plans on backing. Let us know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And give the bell a ring. Bye.